Hello, my name is Buddy Childress, and I'm Executive Director of Needles On Ministries. We are really happy to have you with us today for our monthly speaker series. We hope you enjoy it.
Good afternoon. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all this afternoon and to share my journey with you. I've started out for the past 3 series talking about my life, my journey, and I've used this analogy for the past 3 meetings, and I will continue to use it way beyond these meetings because I thought this analogy really represented my life very well. A couple of Sundays ago, I was listening to Reverend Lance Watson, and he talked about Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith played for the Cowboys. And he expressed how short Emmitt was, but how successful he was at playing football. He was always able to hold that ball right underneath his arms, hold on to it. And when someone tried to tackle him, he'd shift himself to the left. And when someone tried to tackle him again, he'd shift himself to the right. And when someone was coming toward him, he'd hop right over the top of him and keep on going. Well, that's what my life has been like. And I want to share this journey with you today. As Jennifer alluded, I did come from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It's where I was born and raised. I have 6 other siblings. My mom was a devout Methodist. That's how we grew up. But somewhere along the way, she shifted to become a Seventh-day Adventist. She'd been a devout Seventh-day Adventist for over 50 years. I moved to New Jersey in 1973, and when I moved there, my husband and we met, and we became Baptists. So we've been Baptists for about 25 years now. My journey of faith and understanding started when I moved back to Oklahoma City. My husband decided he wanted to move to Oklahoma, and I really assured him that it was going to be a different journey for him because he's a New Jersey boy. And life in Oklahoma City was certainly going to be different for him. Well, we settled in very comfortably. I was glad to be home. I hadn't been home in 15 years. Well, about 8 years later, my husband said, well, we need to move. And I thought, move? Why are we moving again? And he said he wanted to go back east, and we had an older daughter here that was stationed at Fort Eustis. Well, needless to say, I was extremely unhappy about that, very unhappy about that, because my parents were getting older, and my daughter and I were just starting to get closer again. And so I asked the Lord, why is this happening? I don't want to leave here. And the Lord said to me, he spoke to me in his own way, and I said, okay, if the doors start to open, then I'll go. And quite naturally, doors started to open. Things were looking great. So we journeyed on to Richmond, arrived here. My family was extremely upset. I was told that my father locked himself into his truck for several hours. He was so distraught that I was gone. But we came to Virginia prior to our move here, and we came here to find housing. We searched, we rode around, we did everything. We hired someone to get a list, and we found nothing. And at that time, the minister, Reverend Dennis Earl Thomas, who married my husband and I in New Jersey, had been asked to come to preach here in Richmond, Virginia. So I called him, and I boo-hooed on the phone, and I told him, I don't like this. It's not working out. And he said, you just have to have a little bit more faith. So I thought, okay, well, all right. So we rode around, and we ran upon a house that was sitting on the corner, and we called the number on the little sign, and the couple greeted us, met us there. They said, here are the keys. When you move here, just call us, move right in, just let us know that you made it. And I was in such awe, and I thought, well, you know, the Lord is working here, you know. These people don't know us from Jack and Jill, and they've given us the keys to their house and everything. So we were really thrilled about that, but I still really wasn't happy. So as we packed up everything and we moved here to Virginia, about 8 months later, we had pretty much settled in, and my mother called me, and she told me that we needed to get to a television right away. And she told us that the federal building, had been bombed. Well, we did go home, and we watched television, and I couldn't believe the devastation that we were witnessing. 3 things happened to me at that point. The first was I could not believe the destruction and the devastation that was revealed on the television. My second phase of realization was, oh my God, I have a childhood girlfriend that I grew up with in that building. My husband had friends in that building. My third phase of realization was, oh my God, I could have lost my husband in that building. Every morning at 9 o'clock, we pulled up in front of that building, and I dropped him off, and he went into that building. And I thought, okay, all right, I'm going to stop arguing with God, because apparently he's definitely in control. But my faith was still tested after that. I got a little better, but my faith was still being tested. Shortly after that, soon after that, we experienced 911. At that time, my father was sick. He was very sick. And he worried about me flying to Oklahoma to do my fair share, to come in and help out. And I told him, I said, listen, I've got to come. If something happens, it just happens. I'm going on faith that I'm going to make it there to take care of you. I'm going to do my fair share as a daughter. Well, we learned later that my dad was much sicker than what we knew. They told us he would never leave the hospital. He would never leave that bed. And I'm a daddy's girl. I am truly a daddy's girl. I cried when he died. I cried and I cried and I cried. But at that point, I had to be strong for my mother. So I stayed a little extra time, stayed with my mom. And when I came home, I just fell right into my husband's arms because I just couldn't believe that I had lost my dad. It was very, very overwhelming for me. Well, I had to go to United Way on a conference. And that night, I was lying in the bed, turned on the TV, didn't change the channel, just turned it on. And the Lord introduced me to this guy called Joel Osteen. I didn't know anything about Joel Osteen. But Joel was talking directly to me through the Father. He talked about mourning and how we're supposed to mourn, but you're only supposed to mourn for a certain amount of time. And then you must move on. You have to trust in the Lord. Well, that was so comforting and peaceful to me. I was able to move on at that point. Shortly after that, we put my dad away. My mom